So when we are thinking about the subjects of personal development, about personal growth, success, winning, moving forwards, and all of these things, one of the biggest things that I've journaled recently is that we cannot move on to this next chapter of our lives, be it fitness, be it fat loss, family, finance, relationships, career, business, or anything, if we remain mentally stuck in the last chapter. Even think of it in terms of a book. You can't read the next chapter if you just keep reading the current chapter or you keep reading the past chapter. Actually, think of it in terms of a book. How crazy is that? You will never get to the next chapter if you either just keep reading the current chapter or you go back to and you keep reading the past chapter, because we'll never move forwards because we're mentally stuck. But this is what so many of us do, and why so many of us don't move forward, because we're stuck in the past, because we allow past feelings, past actions, past emotions, memories. Many of us are shackled by memories of the past, and it's those memories of the past that stop us from moving forward. Like, some people will never move into a new relationship because the last person hurt them. So they are completely shackled by memories of the past. I saw an absolutely hilarious meme, by the way, the other day, and it said, all men are the same. All men are narcissists, all men are arseholes, all this. And someone replied, yeah, totally. I mean, just show me how much like Prince William and Eminem have in common. Which was just hilarious, because again, there's a theory in that what that person has said, though. That person has taken one memory of the past, or maybe three memories of the past, or maybe 300 if she's a total hoe. But she's taken these memories and she's not going to go into the future. She's not going to allow herself to be loved. She's not going to let her goals down, her guard. She's not going to do anything because she's still in that chapter. Because this happened once, that's just the way life is. And it's not. And we have to get rid of that, because we can't move forwards without it in any areas. You know, and we will then marry this into fat loss. Well, I tried this plan and it didn't work. So no plans work. I can't ever lose weight. Fitness isn't for me. Mindset doesn't work. All this self-help stuff, no, it's a load of rubbish. I read one chapter, didn't work. So again, we're shackled from moving forwards by something that happened. Now, what we can't change is what happened. But what we can change is what happens next. I can't change that last night Logan pulled me into the car door and I had an accident with the car door. But what I can change is what happens moving forwards. Like, that's happened. Oh God, I'm never going to get in the car. I'm never going to try and get him back out of the car seat again, because, well, the last time that happened, I ended up with a black eye. So that's it. I'm never taking Logan to school in the car again. Think about it. We don't do that. But in so many other areas of life, we do. This happened once, so I'm not going to do it again. When in fact, it was just a lesson. So things will always happen that we can't control. I've got some filming to do today as well. And situations will always happen that we can't control. And people will always come and go in our lives, relationships, physical, personal, work, and everything in between. And there will always be good and bad. There will always be success and failure. There will always be love and hate. We've discussed this before. They simply cannot exist without each other, just like me and Peter. So as much as we want to understand it all, what I want you to take away from today is that sometimes you don't have to, because this is where people get lost. I'm just going to read that chapter over and over and over and over and over again, because I need to understand why that happened. I need to understand why that person treated me that way. I need to understand why I failed. when in fact you don't, because 99% of the things that happened were out of your control. And I've said this before so many times, like the only real certainty that I can give you as another human being is that life will always be uncertain. How crackers does that sound? Oh, greatly. What I want is certainty, and all you've told me, the only certainty you can give me is that life will always be uncertain. But it's true. We can't control what happens tomorrow. We can't control the way people treat us. We can't control what happens to us. So the only real certainty that we'll have is that life will always be uncertain. And this is a sticking point when so many people think about joining Unbreakable. They like, what are you going to guarantee me? How much weight am I going to lose? What's going to happen on this date? What's going to happen on that day? I'm like, I don't know. You might break your leg in day 2. You might be a lazy blagger who doesn't even download MyFitnessPal and put 1% of effort in from day 1. I'm not going to give you any certainty, because all I can guarantee is that life will always be uncertain. I can't guarantee that everyone's going to fully make it up and down the 3 peaks on Saturday. I can guarantee I'll stay with everyone until the end, but I can't give anyone any certainty. How long do you think it'll take? I don't know. What do you think the weather will be like? I don't know. Like, there'll always be certain. So again, look at areas in your life. Where am I not taking action because I have an inappropriate need for certainty? Go back to it again. If I knew the girl would say yes, of course I'd ask her out. If I knew the boss would give me the pay rise, of course I'd go asking for it. If I knew the outcome would okay, of course I'd have the difficult conversation. But I don't know them because I have an inappropriate need for certainty. So I'll stay in here and not take action. So what we can change, we can't control people. We can't control the situation. We can't control the outcome. What can we control? Our attitude. Our attitude we are completely in control of. And that comes down to, do you remember when I did the coaching session with you guys after I'd come off a big therapy session with Kieran, when I went deaf? And I kept saying, and that means. And I'd put any situation and I'd say, and that means. That person didn't love me, and that means. I lost the job, and that means. I didn't complete the marathon, and that means. I got injured, and that means. That is what we control. We can control what we make every situation mean. So we can say, that person was negative. Or we can say, amazing. I'm grateful for the world for showing me one more person that isn't the right person and how I need to value myself better. That is the same situation. We can, I've seen this in relationships, right? When and I've experienced it and you guys will have experienced it, right? When a person gets cheated on and it destroys them. They make it all about them, what they did wrong, why they're a failure, why did that person do it? Or again, they'll go down the other side of just pure hatred towards the other person. And it's like, what if you could just change what it means? Jesus Christ, thank God she did that 12 months into the relationship. Imagine if we'd have been together 4 years and had a kid and then she'd done it. God, I'm so grateful she cheated on me. I'm so grateful to her for showing me my true worth, for showing me one more person that I need to not be with, for showing me a person that wasn't worthy of my love. We change what we make the situations mean, or we can say, oh, it must be my fault. I must be a failure. I must be bad. That's what we can change. The attitude and the response. And the response is our responsibility, which is why response is in the word responsibility. So again, we can say thank you. And like I've said that to people, like, are you absurd? You're grateful that someone cheated on you. And you could drill deeper into this. You can go, well, actually, I ended up handling that situation really well. So I'm double grateful, because when one of my friends ultimately probably goes through that same experience, I now have the tools through my own learnings to be able to help them through that situation. So again, I could say I'm grateful for depression because I learned to heal and now I can help other people heal. I can find, honestly, if you go deep enough in what you make every situation mean, you can always find a lesson and a gift and something that you can use to move forward. And that is your attitude towards the situation. So we can accept, learn, and become the warrior. You know, another lesson, what else to learn? Well, I need to pick my partners more carefully. Got a good lesson there. I need to not jump into another relationship until I know that person is right. I need to learn all these lessons from everything that happened in this situation so I don't make the same mistake again. And that is so important. But so many of us don't do it. It's Einstein's definition of insanity, isn't it? Keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different response. But the reality is many of us have to go through that same lesson quite a few times. I had a great phrase the other day that somebody said that the only way that some people learn to tie their shoelaces is by repetitively smashing their head into the concrete. And eventually, once they've smashed their head into the concrete that many times, they'll learn a different way to do it, to tie their shoelaces. So sometimes we might not get the lesson the first time and take it on board, the second or the third time. But eventually, if we keep looking into, right, what does this situation mean? Go back to that training that's in the archives. Why lesson apply? What happened? Why did it happen? What was the lessons? What am I going to apply moving forward? So we can accept, learn, and become the warrior, or we can blame, complain, deny, and play the victim. That's what we control. We don't control the situation. We control the response. So understanding that you cannot change and control the situation, but you can change how you react and respond to it. That is where your pure power is at. That is a fucking superpower. I can't control that, but what I can control is how I respond to it. When we can nail that, that is when you become unbreakable. That is when you become unstoppable. Because we're just saying it doesn't matter what happens, because I control how I respond to it. So no matter what, and Middleton's massive on this. If you read, I think it's in Mindset with Muscle, or it might be one of his books anyway. He talks about the ultimate key is having a negative, being able to apply a positive mindset to a negative situation to produce a positive outcome. And that's it. That's what we're saying. We're saying, I don't care how negative the situation is. I'm in control of how I respond to it. And when I'm in control of how I respond to the situation, no matter how toxic, negative, or horrific it is, that's my power move. That's my strength. So going back to what I said a little bit earlier, before I go off on any more tangents, is I spent years, right? Wasted years. I'm going to say 20 years trying to understand what happened and why. Why did this person do that? Why did that happen to me? Why did this behave that way? And all that energy and focus is on that thing that's happened. So where are we going? Right back to the first part of this training. We're just reading that same chapter over and over again, that chapter that's already happened. And it's like opening a book and I'm just going to keep reading this chapter, don't understand it. I'm going to read it again, don't understand it. I'm going to read it again, don't understand it. Whereas it's like, if we can we can't move on to the next chapter until we let go of that chapter. And you don't need to understand it, because this is when it comes down to, we can either channel the focus into what needs to happen, what we need to do, what actions we need to take to move forward. So again, even like using an injury as an example, I can focus on the fact that I'm injured, or how am I going to rehab myself as quick as possible. I reshared the training with Marcus this week, with him talking about just moving his hand an inch in the hospital when he was in ICU. So you have to think that's exactly what he was doing. He wasn't going, oh, my legs are broken. Oh, my scapula's shattered. Oh, my collarbones. He's thinking, what can I do? That's happened. I'm here for 8 days. I can't change the fact that I had an argument with an Arctic lorry at 60 miles an hour. But what I can change is my attitude to the situation. So what needs to happen in order for me to move forward? And that's what he said to me. If I can move my hand an inch today, maybe I can move it 2 inches tomorrow. So the key to moving forward was when I just learned to accept what had happened. And one of Paul's phrases that I love the most is he'll just say, "Cool story, bro." Like when someone will keep telling the story or about what will happen. Cool story, bro. What do you want to have happen next? Like, do you want to keep telling that story? Because you've already told me 3 times. Like, do you want to keep reading that chapter? With respect, it's actually quite boring and it's not doing you any favors. How about we focus on what you want to have happen next? How about we focus on your goals, your mission, your focus, your purpose? Or do you want to just keep reading that boring chapter over and over and over again? When I found the courage to just accept, let go, move forward. Again, if you're watching this now and you're newish and you haven't gone back, go back and watch the training on the power of letting go. But, it wasn't because I gave up on anything. And this is what I'm going to come on to now, because I think this is where people get stuck. Letting go and giving up is not the same thing. Like, we are stubborn animals by nature, right? I'm not going to give up on this relationship because we've been together 4 years. I'm not going to give up on this job. Like, I went through this with like Nat was in this mindset when we first met. She worked for Mike Ashley for the chain of shops, USC, Sports Direct, yada yada yada. And I won't talk too much about Mike Ashley's staffing capabilities or his kind of attitude, but this is very much what he does with his staff. So he puts them on very low wages. He thrashes them through the roof, 18, 19-hour days. He's known for doing that. This is going to go on YouTube. I wonder if I'll get a comment from Mike Ashley. But then he promises huge future bonuses. And you've been with us. This is where Nat was when she started. When you've been with us 10 years, you're going to get a 30K bonus. I'm like, so you're going to destroy your life and be unhappy for 6 years because you put 4 years in and some douchebag's promising that you in 10 years, you're going to get this if you carry on essentially working like a sweatshop worker for the next 6 years. But again, that is where not just her, but multiple other members of staff, and he will deeply understand the psychology of this, didn't want to leave. I can't leave now. I've put 5 years in. I only need to do another 5 and I get my 30K bonus. But what about if you got a new career that was 30K more than the current one you're doing? I remember saying that to her. I'm like, you can make 30K in 6 months, self-employed, doing something you love. Ping! Oh my God, light bulb moment. But it's what's called the sunk cost fallacy. We don't want to give up on something because we've put so much in. This is what it's classic fruit machine player mentality, right? Oh my God, like I put 20 quid in, the jackpot's got to come soon. I'll just put another quid in. I'll just put another quid in. And we're not going, right, shit, this is not working. The only person who wins on a fruit machine is the person that owns the fruit machine. But I'm not going to walk away. I'm going to keep putting some more in because I've already put 20 quid in. So the jackpot's got to be soon. So we need to understand that walking away, letting go and moving on isn't the same as giving up and failing. I think humans get mentally twisted with that. I didn't give up. I found the strength to move on. I realized that it was how does Brian Keane describe it? The wrong ladder and the right wall situation. So it's better to be at the bottom of the right ladder against the right wall than the wrong ladder against the wrong wall and being at the top. But that's what the sunk cost fallacy is. So that's when I made a decision to start looking forwards. And that's when you can make a decision to move and understand it's not giving up. It's not failure. It's not a decision to give up. It's a decision to level up. How different does that sound? I'm not giving up on that career. I'm going to level up on a new career. But in order for me to level up on this new chapter, I need to give up on that old chapter. That doesn't mean I'm failing. And it's so easy for us to allow our pride and our ego to get in the way. Another great one of, can't remember if it's Ryan Halliday or Dan Sullivan. I think it's Ryan Halliday. Ego is the Enemy is a great book. This is why we very often don't do things, because of our ego. Talked about that multiple times, haven't I? That people think our ego is that strong that we think all these thousands of people in the world really give that much of a shit about us, and it stops us doing things. I don't want to do that because so-and-so might laugh at me. Sorry to break it to you, bro, but so-and-so is just living their own life. They don't really give a shit whether you success, fail, win, or anything. But that's our ego. Like, we think that everybody's watching us, that when we walk into a gym, that everyone's watching us, that everyone's judging us, that everyone's mocking us, that everyone's going to have an opinion. This is why people don't send the email or do the Facebook post or get on a sales call or join the gym or do the fat loss thing or try the 3 peaks or try the ultra marathon. They think that everyone's going to be looking at them, everyone's going to be watching them, everyone's going to pull them down on the foul. The reality is 99% of people aren't watching and don't give a shit. They're too busy living their own lives. But that's our ego. So we need to give it a kick into touch, because reality with what will also happen with ego and pride, and I did this very, very badly, is we just keep banging on the same door. I'm not a quitter. I'm not a quitter. I bet I put in 2 years in lockdown, I easily put 50 grand into Find Yourself recordings. Some of you will remember it. Into the record label, into my tracks that are onto production, into engineering, into Spotify promotion, into all of those things. And there's that stubborn ego that's saying, I'm not giving up on my music career. I'm not giving up on it. But essentially, you have to step back and go, this isn't working. This isn't paying for itself. This is going backwards financially. This is costing money. I'm banging on the wrong door. Knock, 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 knock. But we can't just keep banging on the wrong door because we've been banging on the wrong door for the last 2 years. Sometimes you have to say, enough's enough. I need to walk away from this. But in order to do that, I need to understand that I wasn't quitting on my music career. It didn't make me a quitter. It didn't make me a failure. I just decided to give up on that so I could level up somewhere else, this business. So we have to understand that success requires adjustment, and success requires new doors. It requires new chapters, new people, new visions, new dreams, new goals. And we can't, as I said right back at the very start, we can't move on to the next chapter if we're stuck in the one that we're reading now. So even if this means going back to the bottom, back to the very start, again, that's a view, like personal, relationship-wise. Like, that is controlling your attitude, controlling your responsibility. You can say this is exactly the same sentence. Can't believe I'm 43 years old and I'm fucking starting out again. I can't believe I'm 43 years old and I'm starting out again. That's the same sentence. One can be excitement, dreams, future, vision, new opportunities, new experiences. And one can be stuck, down, depression, learned hopelessness. But it's the same thing. It's what we make it means, what we make it mean. I can't believe I'm having to start out on my own again. And that means you can list 100 positives or you can list 100 negatives. Whichever one you decide to read and tell yourself will become your personal reality. So it requires adjustment. It requires not falling into the sunk cost fallacy. Because based on Monday's training, I would say the sunk cost fallacy has killed as many dreams as what did I call it? The disease of someday or the disease of tomorrow. Because we're just putting all, if like an outside, very often it takes an outside person to come in and show you, but we're so often completely locked in trying to make something work that isn't working because we don't want to give up and be seen as a quitter, when really the universe just keeps giving us this big reminder: wrong door, wrong ladder, wrong relationship, wrong friendship, wrong career. Like, how many times do I have to tell you before you realize your ladder's up against the wrong door? And that's the same as, not, I studied the management of change at uni. It's the same. It's a fear of change, a fear of discomfort. But again, we know that doesn't exist, which is what we're going to come on to. So be careful that we're not walking away from something and staying in the same chapter just because with what we've put into it, it's the wrong chapter. But in this, I've described it as the river of life. I've described it as the road of life, the journey. But there will always be bends. Like Jordan Belfort always in sales used to coach, like, can't remember what his theory was. I didn't read the book, I stopped reading it. Although I do like his quote about the only thing stopping you from achieving your dreams is your bullshit reason why you keep telling yourself why it's different for you or why you can't. But I think his sales coach is very much just straight line, like straight line to the sale, like no bends, no cuts. And to me, that's not how life or anything will ever be. There'll always be bends. There'll always be side roads. There'll always be accidents, crashes. And sometimes we might just have to go right the way back round that big roundabout to the beginning, drop the ego, drop the pride and say, that didn't work, let's start again. But what are we starting again with? All the lessons, all the learnings, everything that the universe has given us. And to put that into perspective, this is why sometimes people get to like my age, 32, 43, and they start to feel that life is over. Oh, well, this is just the way life is. Got my 2.4 kids and the white picket fence, or whatever it is people desire, or, it is what it is, or, I'm just going to settle for what I've got. And as I've said before, that can be a really dangerous place. Or the amount of people that have said to me, oh, man, I love this phrase, man, if only I'd know then what I know now, I would insert what they do. And I'm like, well, guess what, bro? You do know now what you didn't know then. And you've still got 40 fucking years left. So why don't you stop the bullcrap story and start writing a new one? Like, if you think at 40 years old, Dan Meredith did a training on this. He was amazing. He was like, right, draw out all these boxes. And we drew out all these boxes. And he was like, right, color in, however, I think it was 82 boxes, which is like the average age of what a human lives to in the UK. And then you had to color in all the boxes of ever how many years you were. But obviously people were between 21 and about my age, 32, on that training. And he was like, look at how much of your life you have left. Like, some of you have got 70% of your life left, but you've had 30 years of lessons, 30 years of mistakes. You're actually in a better position to go to uni as an accountant when you're 40 than you are when you're 18. Yet again, we think we can't do it. And it's just a story. We're starting out again. We could go all the way down the road, round the roundabout, mess everything up, come right back to the start of, okay, I'm kind of back where I was when I was 16 years old. Guess what? I've got 30 years of lessons to apply and move forward to plan a new road, a new destination, because failure doesn't exist. Just lessons. But don't be so stubborn that you need to keep sit in the same class and the same test so many times that you just keep, that is what kills so many people. Like I said, the sunk cost fallacy. They just keep doing the same thing. I keep going, I'm not a quitter, I'm not a quitter, I'm not a quitter. It's not about being a quitter. It's just that you're doing the wrong thing and you keep getting the lesson telling you that you're doing the wrong thing, but you just keep doing it anyway. So I want to leave you with two incredible analogies of fear and also an incredible analogy of failing. So we can either, it's so crazy that these fit as well. I think this was Zig Ziglar. We can either forget everything and run, F-E-A-R, fear. One analogy of fear. Forget everything and run. Or we can face everything and rise. And that means it's the same word. It's the same word. It just depends what we make it mean. We can make that fear means we need to forget everything and run, or it means that we can face everything and rise. But understanding that to start again, to move, to go on a new chapter, to give up, to quit on something that isn't working, isn't failure. Because the other analogy of failure is the letters fail. F-A-I-L. First attempt in learning. Have an awesome day. I love you all. Don't walk into car doors.